Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. It's another beautiful day. It's day, 5 now of the baseball season. And of course, we dealt yesterday with the bad news about the Marlins and in the Philly game. And it looks like today, the Phillies and Yankees, at least as far as we know now, they're scheduled to play tonight. And the Marlins still not playing. The hope is that they will be playing tomorrow. The big hope is that we get this thing under control and it doesn't affect other players and other teams. Boy, the Marlins hit hard yesterday. So I tell you what, let's do. We spent a lot of time yesterday talking about the coronavirus. Today, what I'd like to do is talk more about baseball. And let's talk about some big players. Yeah, you ready? And first of all, let me give kudos to Lenny. Great send-off. Great way to start the day. We got a big day today here on the network. Not only have I got this show now, but then we've got Phil Chaplin coming on tonight. I'm coming on with Chappie after that. So it's a big fantasy night here on the network. Make sure you don't miss any of it. You're going to be informed and you're going to be entertained. That's for sure. So hang with us tonight. Chappie comes on at 7. We're back on at 9. And we'll be talking games that are going on and other things as well. You don't want to miss it. I guarantee you it's the best around and doesn't cost you a dime. Tune in and watch. How about that? Cheaper than DirecTV any day of the week. So here we go. Let's talk about an ace. We talked about pitchers yesterday. We're going to talk a little bit about Corey Kluber, and then we'll move on to some better news, okay? Corey Kluber, strain 2 grade in that right shoulder. He's out at least 4 weeks, not projected to be in the starting rotation the rest of the season. And it looks like his year probably is over. I did not get a report on Verlander yesterday. Strasburg threw a bullpen. But I want to talk about Los Angeles Dodger ace Clayton Kershaw. Kershaw threw a 15-pitch bullpen yesterday. And we'll throw another one, on Sunday. We'll throw another one today. And according to Dave Roberts, he's feeling a lot better. You know, he injured his back lifting weights. And no news broke on that until just before opening day start against the Giants last Thursday. Now, we know he's had these back problems, but it looks like the weightlifting issue, although it could be connected, is a different kind of injury. You know, even though he's had recent injuries, and even though last year he suffered through with some back issues, even with that, Kershaw last year was 16-5, with a 3.03 ERA in 28 starts. You know, the thing is, those aren't really what we consider to be Kershawian numbers, but they're still really good. And they're better numbers than you're going to get from Verlander. They're better numbers than you're going to get from Kluber. Barring some Tampa Bay pitching against Atlanta, 19 strikeouts yesterday. Wow. I mean, Glasnow started it and everybody else finished it. But barring some major catastrophe, Kershaw's still going to put up pretty good numbers. Now, this Wednesday, Dustin May scheduled to start again in his spot against the Astros. Not necessarily a great landing spot for Dustin May in his second start in the major leagues, but that's who's going to draw the start on Wednesday. And we'll look for reports on Kershaw after today's bullpen session. Now, Kershaw is a great fantasy pitcher, and Kevin's online, and I totally agree, because regular season, Kershaw is usually gold. It's just a matter of getting to the playoffs where he's had trouble and he's scuffled. But in a regular season situation, there's not a lot of difference in any other ace. Kershaw has been at least as good as any of the other aces during the regular season. So look for him to come back. We'll see how that goes. Somebody must be talking about me. My nose is itching. How about that? You get to see me scratching my nose on Facebook. Let's talk about the Astros. Houston relief pitcher Ryan Presley, elbow. Chris Nowitzki, elbow. That's what's wrong with Verlander, elbow. Both are dealing with soreness in their elbows and are day to day. Austin Pruitt, also suffering from an elbow injury, has been shut down with elbow inflammation. I'm using the word elbow a lot, huh? Roberto Osuna did get a save and now is back in the closer role in Houston. But this bullpen is really in shambles. You know, Osuna was a late arrival to camp, made his debut Saturday against Seattle, giving up one hit in the scoreless inning. Presley next man up, but now he's got an injured elbow. Davinsky, injured elbow. We know they lost players in the offseason. So now you've got Cy Sneed and Brian Abreu to be trusted in high leverage situations as the bridge to Osuna. How many of you guys have ever heard of Cy Sneed pitching for the Astros until now? So there's your bridge. Big difference in Davinsky, Presley, last year Harris, Smith, and now they got to face the Dodgers in a set. You know, Houston struggled with Seattle. They really did. And Kyle Lewis ate them up. And I just can hardly imagine how the Dodger bats will fare against this bullpen. The rotation is hurting. The bullpen is hurting. It could be a year where Houston does not make the playoffs. Boy, that'd be a shame, wouldn't it? Bring out the trash cans. Washington Nationals starting pitcher, speaking of pitchers, Steven Strasburg, I just mentioned a moment ago, threw, quote, very lightly, end of quote, on Monday, according to manager Davey Martinez. Strasburg is feeling less of a tingle in his thumb after being scratched from his first start on Saturday. But the Nationals, they've not yet determined when Strasburg will hit the mound. Now, how many of you guys had high expectations for Strauss? I really did and still do. You know, he came off all those innings last year, but then he had the downtime where he didn't have to throw. Now he's got, you know, Washington. Look, after watching Atlanta, the Mets look like the best team in the East to me right now. The Nats look to me like they could be second. And the Marlins, it's a shame what happened to their team, but the Marlins look pretty good against the Phillies over the weekend. That East is really going to be a dogfight. I don't think Atlanta is as bad as Atlanta has looked. I think Washington will timely hit and they'll pitch, but to me, the Mets are just the cream of the crop. Now, the Mets, every team has an Achilles heel, and so far the Mets' Achilles heel has been that bullpen. Now, we'll see how that goes. But getting back to Strasburg, the 32-year-old, he's considered day-to-day. Eric Fetty did replace him last Saturday, and so we'll see how Fetty does in his next start. Speaking of, let's stay with the Nats. Washington Nationals outfielder Juan Soto has received now one negative test after being put on the injured list last Thursday. Now, as you know, I said it yesterday, even if you're put on the 10-day IL, there's no minimum stay or maximum stay on the IL if you have a second negative COVID test. So if he were to test negative in the next 24 hours, then Juan Soto could return to his team and be activated and be back in that lineup. And what a difference that's going to make. You're talking about a most valuable player candidate in Juan Soto. No joke. I think he can be MVP. And can you imagine this Washington Nationals team if Juan Soto comes back and plays like Juan Soto? So Martinez says, Davey Martinez, the manager, says that Juan Soto's feeling good and trying to stay in shape for a quick return. Michael A. Taylor has received the starts in lieu of Soto and was in the outfield again Monday against the Blue Jays. How about that Blue Jay game? Teoscar Hernandez all of a sudden gets in the starting lineup. And what does he do? He hits 2 home runs in the leadoff spot. Bo Bichette with the sore hammy day-to-day, probably back today, precautionary. The Nationals, staying with them, signed second baseman Josh Harrison. Remember the former Pittsburgh Pirate great Josh Harrison? He signed to a 1-year deal They option catcher Roddy Reed to the alternate training side in order to bring up the former Pittsburgh Pirate All-Star. He was an All-Star in 2014, 6 years ago. He played in just 36 games for Detroit last year. He's a veteran utility guy, and if you have any options left in your fantasy pickups, some of us like to use our pickups really quick, right? But if you have any available still, you might want to consider picking him up. And, the thing about Harrison, he's got a little pop. He's got some speed, steal you a few bases, and he plays all over the place. Let's talk about the Cubs for a moment, shall we? How many of you are interested in talking about the Cubs? Well, I am, so we will. Okay, because if I'm not interested, we don't talk about it. But here we go. Craig Kimbrell, he of the Goldilocks look. Did you check out his flow yesterday? Wow. He struggled against the Redlegs, rather. Cincinnati hit him pretty good. He only recorded 1 out and walked 4 Reds and also hit a batter while allowing 2 runs. Not quite as bad as Shohei Ohtani on Sunday, but close. Really close. Kimbrell, coming off his worst season ever last year. I mean, he never pitched as bad as he did last year. And so, what does yesterday tell you? I mean, it tells me that he's still not quite there. We'll see how things go. But Kimbrell, I don't know. I'm very skittish on Kimbrell in fantasy. How about David Bote? I'm staying on the Cubs this morning because I know Phil Chaplin's somewhere out there in fantasy land. Bote went 2 for 5 yesterday with a pair of RBIs, got his first start with a left-hander on the mound for the Reds. He'll be a super utility player, probably not as fantasy relevant as a lot of people would like, but a big game yesterday. I think maybe Kimbrell could go back to Boston and please come to Boston for the springtime. I'm staying here with some friends and they got lots of room. You ever heard that before? Yeah. Anyway. Steven Souza Jr. went 1 for 5, runs scored, 2 RBIs, 3 strikeouts against the Reds on Monday. Got his first start. Jason Hayward set because the Reds were throwing a lefty. He looks healthy. He'll be platooning. He's on the weak side of that platoon, which means I don't want any part of Steven Souza Jr. on my fantasy teams this year. And how about Chris Bryant? Word is, and I'm reading on the post that Chris Bryant, what I'm reading on the post right now is Chris Bryant stinks. Okay, Christian Yelich is 1 for 18 to start the year. And I said this yesterday. 1 for 18 to start the year. Bryant, not much better, if at all. But are you going to cut these guys on your fantasy teams? Absolutely not, because you know they're going to turn it around. Breaking news, Yankees, Phillies canceled tonight. There is no Yankee-Phillies game. I'm just seeing that come across. And so another canceled game for the Yankees and the Phillies. And for those of us like me who have a lot of Yankees on their fantasy squads, it's just another day of having empty spots. If you counted on Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge, well, you better count on something else. I tell you who you can count on, though. How about the Contreras boys? Wilson Contreras, his brother's hitting the ball like crazy for Atlanta, not yesterday, but Wilson Contreras went 2 for 4 with a pair of RBIs yesterday. And he's off to a hot start, hitting 357. 357 of the team's first 4 games. He's hitting in that 5 spot. Look for them to DH him. Look for them to use him as he remains one of the top catchers. Outfield, DH. Contreras will be a really good player to have on fantasy teams this year. So if you have, he's not going to be out there as a free agent. He's been drafted and picked, but he's doing really well, a lot better than the season he started to have last year. How about Rizzo in that bad back? Well, he continued his hot start. He went 1 for 2 with a home run, 3 runs scored, an RBI, and a walk. The home run was his third of the season. And so any back issues that were reported on first baseman Anthony Rizzo, at least they don't seem to be affecting his performance at the plate from the power side. Now, I do think the Cubs will give him a day off occasionally. Over the first 17 days, they play 17 games. Look for Caratini to fill in some at first base. Yesterday was the first game Caratini did not play on the year. But Rizzo, another great start to a season. And how about John Lester? And we got to talk about John Lester. I mean, he gets so much bad publicity. Let's give him some good. You want to? I mean, Lester, how about this? Facing the Reds, who can hit. Now, I know Moustakas is out. I know Senzel is out. But face it, the Reds have a pretty good offense. Well, facing that offense on Monday, he no-hit the Reds over 5 innings. Now, he only had 1 strikeout. So the days of Lester being a strikeout pitcher, they're probably over. But the thing about a Lester is Lester knows how to pitch. He's won World Series. He will adapt. And as long as he can stay healthy, he will be, I think, fantasy relevant. He's going to get some wins, and the Cubs, they love him. I mean, I guess what's not to love? And so I'm looking for Lester, as long as he stays healthy, to put up some wins, to give you some innings. And again, yesterday, no hits the Reds over 5 innings. If you have any moves left in fantasy, then you ought to take a chance at looking at Lester. He's probably going to pitch again over the weekend. But if you don't have any moves, then join my brother and me in one league that we're in, because we've used all our moves, and John Lester is not going to be an option, as will no one else for that matter. How about we take a look at another team? We've gone through the Cubs pretty hard here. I talked about the Mets briefly. Yesterday, Michael Conforto. Are you a Conforto fan? Because I am. I believe in Michael Conforto. I really do. And if you're a Conforto fan, then you had to be pleased with yesterday. He had his first home run of the season in the Mets 7-4 win over the Red Sox. Now, the Red Sox pitching, horrible. I mean, Red Sox pitching is the worst I have ever seen it. Eovaldi is the ace of that staff. Eovaldi is the best pitcher on that staff, and I argue some days Eovaldi may be the only pitcher on that staff. Yesterday, the Mets beat up on the Red Sox. You know, they lost the series over the weekend to the Orioles. Here's the question, and I don't think I ever would have thought this. Could Baltimore finish with a better regular season record this year than Boston? I mean, you think that sounds ridiculous. The Red Sox have all these great hitters. They do. Devers isn't hitting right now, and nobody can get anyone out. Until the Red Sox can get some pitching, I put them in the Orioles class. Now, the Mets have a good offense. I think the Mets are the cream of the crop over anyone else in the National League East. I really believe that. Conforto goes yard. He went 1 for 4. 2-run homer, his only hit, but he's off to a good start. He's hitting .417. Now, I don't give much faith to batting averages this early in the year. I don't think you can. But I do know it's a, whereas you take a look at Yelich, who's 1 for 18, not good start, but here's Conforto hitting .417 with a homer and 2 RBIs and 12 at-bats. So he's got 5 hits and 12 at-bats. In last year, Conforto hit .257. He had 33 homers, 7 steals. I think he's a great third outfielder in fantasy. How about Dom Smith yesterday for the Mets? Also homering. It was a 3-run shot. He served as the designated hitter his first start of the year. Cespedes took a seat yesterday. Look for that to happen. I think that Cespedes will play like every third out of 4 days. I think he'll play 3 and have a day off. I think he could be an impact bat in the 3 games that he plays, but only days off. Look for it to be against a right-hander, and look for Dom Smith to get those at bats. And I just see a post on Facebook that says the Braves are better in 162, and that may be, but that's the great thing about this season. It's just look. You take lemons and you make lemonade, right? And we're making lemonade this year. It's 2020. We got 60 games. It's a different way of thinking. It's a different way of playing. And now injuries that are 3-week injuries, they're season debilitating, whereas before there weren't. I just think in a 60-game season, the Mets, look, they've got Cespedes, they've got Cano, they got McNeil, they got the great J.D. Davis. Now we've got Dom Smith. They've got some hitters on that team. I didn't mention Rosario, who's a great shortstop. How about Kyle Lewis for Seattle? I mean, Lewis has been probably the surprise player so far in fantasy over the first 4 games. He went 2 for 4 yesterday against the Astros. He had a walk. He's been on fire. He's through 4 games, he's in 400, 2 home runs, and has had at least 1 hit in each of the 4 games. He's also walked, and that's key. On base percentage. That tells me he is watching the ball, seeing the ball, hitting the ball, and if it's not a strike, he's taking it a lot of times. Now, he struck out twice in each game this year. So he's an aggressive hitter, but it looks like he's recognizing the strike zone. Keep your eye on Kyle Lewis. Let's change. Let's talk about Pete Alonso while we're at it, shall we? Pete Alonso, then we'll talk about another Mariner. I tell you what, since we just talked about a Mariner, let's talk about another one, Evan White. Mariners just don't get any love in fantasy much, do they? So let's give them a big hug. Let's give the Mariners some love this morning, right? Evan White went 2 for 5 with a homer and 2 RBIs in Monday's loss to the Astros. He seems to be a mainstay for the Mariners now at first base. So is he a player you want to pick up in fantasy? Probably not. Is he a player to keep your eye on? Because here's what he's going to get. White's going to get opportunity, a lot of opportunity. And I'm looking in the chat, in the post, and there's a post about Colin Moran, who hit 2 home runs yesterday. Now, I'm not a big Moran fan. He went to UNC. He's a Carolina boy. I love everybody that leaves Carolina, okay? You see, I got on my Carolina blue shirt today. But Moran, the 2 homers yesterday, look, Moran may go the rest of the month and not hit another one. Okay, write that down. I'm going to predict that Colin Moran will not get a home run the rest of the month of July. That's the thing we do sometimes. We jump on a horse a little too quickly. I would not be one to do that. Now, would you? I've done it. But Moran may go the rest of the month and not hit another home run. In fact, that's my prediction. So I'm not a big Moran fan. I've seen it too many times. Just about the time, or something will happen, he'll get hurt. Just about the time I started believing Colin Moran, there he goes. Pete Alonso yesterday, homered also. A lot of home runs. I think the Mets hit 5 home runs in that game against the Red Sox. That was his first home run. He's now hitting 125. Yeah, that's a bold prediction. I got a question about Moran. I just got to tell the truth. I mean, he hits 2 home runs yesterday. And so I think he is fool's gold. I think it's a fluke. Look, someone just posted he had an opening day home run the last 3 years at PNC. That's right. And what's he done after that? That's why he's not going to hit another home run for a little while. I mean, just the history is your best predictor of future events. And that's the future event. Seth Lugo earned a save yesterday. You know, for as violent as inconsistent as some of the Met relievers can be. The model of consistency there is Seth Lugo. He pitched the final inning and a third, allowing no hits, no walks, struck out one. He cannot pitch on back-to-back days. It's unlikely the Mets will stick with him in the ninth inning. However, Diaz has blown already a save in just 2 opportunities. He had an abysmal 2019. So look for, I tell you, they can say what they want to, but if Diaz can't get people out and Lugo can, look for Lugo to take over that role eventually. I don't know how soon. Breaking news right now from MLB, the latest round of testing from the Miami Marlins found 4 new coronavirus positives. That brings the total over the last 5 days to 17. I had 18 yesterday. Apparently that was an incorrect report that I read. It was actually 14, but now they're up to 17. This is just hot off the press. I'm reading it right now as we're talking. As I said earlier, the Yankees and Phillies are canceled today. The Orioles and Marlins are canceled today. The Yankees are expecting to play a game at Citizens Bank Park tomorrow. The team is now still waiting on the Phillies coronavirus testing. But 17, what a number. Let's talk more baseball. We're talking about Seattle some. Let's do that a little bit more. Shed Long, former Cincinnati Red great farmhand Shed Long, walked twice, scored a run, and stole his 2nd base of the year. And I bring up Shed Long because what have the Mariners got to lose? Nothing. They're not going to win. They're not going to make the playoffs. So look for Shed Long to run some more. He's going to be stealing bases, I think, at a regular, strong clip. So look for Shed Long to be doing just that as we go through our season. I'm going to stop here for today. I've got a little work to do other than this. I got a lot of material for tonight, okay? So when we get to tonight, I've got a lot of material ready. We haven't even touched on this morning. We'll go through some games tonight that are in progress. So I want everybody to be ready to roll tonight. Look for Chappie at 7. I'll be on at 9 with Chappie. Everybody have a great day. And I'll be talking to you this evening on Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports right here on the Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports Network.